Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Clayton County Board of Education work session. Today is February 26, 2024. It is 6:21 p.m. We apologize for executive session. Ran over a bit, so we are going to start our board meeting. At this time, I'm going to call the roll, starting with District 1, Ms. Jasmine Bowles. District 2, Mr. Mark Christmas.
Present.
District 3, Jesse Goree, that is me. District 4, Ms. Victoria Williams. District 5, Dr. D. Haney. District 6, Ms. Mary Baker. District 7, Ms. Sabrina Hill.
Present.
District 8, Ms. Joy Tillis Cooper. District 9, Mr. Benjamin Straker.
Consent. Present.
Superintendent Dr. Anthony Smith.
Present.
Our legal counsel for this evening, Ms. Jordan Daly. Our board liaison, Ms. Kim Blackwood. Our administrative assistant to the board and to the superintendent and board, Ms. Alicia Battle. And our administrative assistant to the deputy superintendent and chief of staff, Ms. Don Blau. All right. Our other two board members will be coming out shortly. All right, before we get started, I want to take a moment of silent reflection. We didn't have a person from the school district, but we had at the University of Georgia, I believe her name is Miss Lakin Riley, was a nursing student, and I know that there was they had a I can't even think of the word I want to say. Her funeral service hasn't been held, but um, we want to keep her family and her colleagues at the University of Georgia in prayer. And also along that line, since today is the last day of Black History Month, I think we should have reflection over the fact over this month is the shortest month of the year, but as a people who were brought out of their home country, they came across the ocean to this country that built America, and we still are in a time where we all don't have rights, the rights that we should have. So anyway, at this time, let's have a moment of silent reflection for Miss Rowley and for the conclusion of our Black History Month. Thank you. Thank you so much. And if we could just be kinder to one another, that would just relieve everything, just being a kinder, gentler person. Okay, so at this time, we need to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, I will read the ethics statement. In accordance with Board Policy BH, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of such conflicts. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict with respect to any matter scheduled to come before the board at this meeting or appearing on our proposed agenda? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from participation in the matter involved. All right, at this time, I need a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Ms. Hill,
So moved, Madam Chair.
I need a second. Ms. Baker,
Second.
it's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda. Please vote. All right, and the vote is 8 in favor, 9 in favor. All right, at this time, we will have recommendations from executive session. And in executive session, we discuss personnel matters. Did you want to?
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, colleagues, community members, board members, you've been provided a re-election list for principals, assistant principals, and central office staff. I would like the board to consider my recommendations for contract renewal.
All right, at this time, I need a recommendation, I'm sorry, I need a motion for the superintendent's recommendation. We're gonna start first with the re-election list of principals. So I need a motion for the re-election list of principals. Ms. Baker,
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for principals as discussed in executive session.
okay, I need a second. Ms. Cooper.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. However, I am going to, we are going to remove number 64. So this will be a motion for everyone except for 64. Does everyone understand that? All right, please vote. All right, and the vote is 9 in favor. All right, we need to vote on number 64 separately. I move that we vote for number 64, and I need a second. Ms. Williams. Are you seconding?
The vote?
Seconding for, we need to vote separately on number 64. All right. It has been moved and properly seconded that we vote separately for number 64. Please vote. All right. And the vote is 6 in favor, 3 abstentions. All right, does everybody, you have that, Miss Battle? Okay. Thank you. All right. On the second list, I need a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation, the re-election list for assistant principals. Ms. Baker.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendations for assistant principals as discussed in executive session.
Okay, I need a second. Ms. Cooper? All right. And we need to pull number 31 from that list. So we'll be voting for everyone except for number 31. All right. Please vote. All right, we have 8 in favor and 1 abstention. All right, we will be voting for number 31 in a separate vote. I'm going to make a motion that we vote on number 31. Do I have a second? Ms. Williams. All right, it's been moved and properly second to vote on number 31. Please vote. I'm sorry. All right, we have 6 in favor and 3 abstentions. Can you see them? I see Ms. Williams, Ms. Baker, Ms. Cooper.
No, I'm not no,
Huh?
I voted yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I guess, what were you trying to make a motion? The light was still on. I'm sorry. So Ms. Williams and Ms. Cooper are the abstentions. And 7 in favor. Okay. Actually, there were 3 lists, and we'll just go ahead and vote on the third list as well. The third list is for the superintendent's recommendation for central office. I need a motion. I'm gonna go, I saw Ms. Cooper's light first. Or do you?
The motion was, well, it wasn't a motion. I needed to do a correction on that last one that we voted on. Put me the 9. So the first part of it, it can be 9-0, but I'm going to keep my vote for the second part of that.
Can you repeat what you said?
So for number 31, I think we voted just to open it up. Go ahead and do 9-0 because it was 8-1 because you got me as an extension.
No, I changed.
Oh, you changed it? Okay.
Wait a minute. Do you have her as an extension? Okay, well, you're changing you to, you are voting yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And
she's
then
voting yes. Okay, let me just start back again here. Okay, so I need a motion for the central office recommendation. Ms. Baker.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations by the superintendent for central office staff as stated in executive session.
Okay, I need a second. Is that what your light is on, Ms. Bowles?
It is second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we accept the superintendent's recommendations as stated in executive session for central office staff. All right, and the vote is unanimous. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
All right. At this time, we are doing our updates to the board. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Dr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, members of the, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, colleagues and community members. We have an update from our Teaching and Learning and Strategic Improvement Department, Dr. Delphia Young.
Good evening.
Excuse. Since he stopped you, I have that listed as, can you do all of that at one time?
Sure.
We don't need to hear.
It's only one time. Yes, yes.
Thank
When we get to
you.
the end, so I'll tell you that.
At the end, we just need the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have our goal. We want to increase our student achievement. We really want to make sure that our resources are aligned to our standards, whether they state, national, or international standards. And we also want to ensure that our students and teachers have the resources that they need in order to be successful as part of our aligned with our strategic goal. In addition to that, we have our textbook adoption. Back in 2016, the State Department of Education empowered our school districts to select their own instructional materials and make those recommendations. Before 2016, we had guidance, strict guidance from the Georgia Department of Education. But now we have more empowerment to do our own processes. Typically, we do textbook adoptions every 5 years. And so we are in this 5th year cycle for our adoption. We go through a process for adopting textbooks. We start off by communicating with our coordinators what books are up for adoptions or what content would be up for adoptions. Our coordinators then work to prepare a package that they submit to individuals who want to respond to our RFPs. Our publishers submit those RFPs for our review, and then our committees that are created by our coordinators then review those resources. And between August and September, we look at the resources. We use survey information as well as conversations with our stakeholders to identify our top 3 vendors. Following that, we have a vendor fair throughout Clayton County at various sites to allow our stakeholders to come and see those products, to review them, ask questions. And then we use that information to select our top publishers based on the findings. And then in February, we present to the board for approval. This process is a little early as I promised last year that we would do it much earlier so that we can get these resources into our school district and to our schools without delay. And part of the process as well, as I said before, we share this information. You can see that we engage our general public, we engage with our parents, our community members, as well as our staff, and in some cases, students. We had various locations throughout Clayton County to host these vendor fairs or reviews, and you can see the listing there. As I said before, we use the surveys, and we take that survey and look at the information, and we use our best judgment along with those surveys to identify our top vendors. And of course, anytime we make recommendations for our textbooks or any instructional resources, we always include implementation and usage professional development. And so that's part of the pricing that you will see or you have seen in your executive summary. We look at providing PD in various ways, ranging from in-person training to online training and a combination of that as well. And we provide this training initially the first year and then throughout the remaining of the adoption process, especially for our new teachers and new leaders. And that's the process that we use. And so at the end of the presentation, you can see that we have presentation slides for our adoption, and I'm not going to go over that, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions.
Ms. Hill.
Yes, thank you for that, Dr. Young. I just have one question. Are our scholars still taking books home? Do the scholars still take books home?
Good question, good questions. Yes, in high school and middle school, we have books taken home. And yes, in elementary as well, but they're called consumable books. And that is where they get a chance to write in, because in K through 6, 7, 8, we have in some cases what we call consumables because we're using the digital resources. And so in order for kids to not have to print things out, we have what we call consumables. So to answer the question, they all take some book home. Some of it may be called consumables, and some of them are called actual textbooks like you commonly see.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Young, just two brief questions, and if it gets too
Don't get one.
lengthy, if it gets too lengthy, we could talk offline, in your office. One question, you may have already alluded to this. I see the cost of $9 million for the purchase of the textbook material. The previous year, was it higher or lower?
So if you go and look at the total, I believe it's 25 million total. So yes, it was higher last year.
It was
Yes,
higher
yes,
last year.
yes.
And the second thing is more of an opinion question. Where are we going futuristically when it comes to textbooks versus digital material?
Good question. So let me answer that question. We're probably going to continue with the hybrid. I'm going to tell you why. Although we have digital access, it's no cheaper to have digital than to have print. And when you have digital access, you still have to buy consumables. You still got to put the questions, the activities in some book. And so you're still going to have to buy books. And so with the textbooks, it's a one-time purchase. But when you do consumables, please be mindful, we give those consumables every year. And what we discovered, the difference between having all digital and having a combination is $30,000. Actually, it's $29,000. I just rounded it up.
Ms. Bowles.
Good evening, Dr. Young. Two questions. How many years are these commitments for to our new textbooks?
So what we do, we have a 5-year contract, but we only purchase 1 year at a time.
Perfect. And so each year we will receive new consumables.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Not new textbooks unless we are engaging in extra enrollment
Correct. Okay,
or
great.
lost. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Board members, you've been provided a superintendent's monthly board update. I will go through each division and speak to only highlights. You've been provided the report, and if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to do so. We'll start with the Division of Administrative Services and Strategic Improvements. We have new school servers that have been delivered to our warehouse for configuration, staging to support testing, application, and update deployments, with server installations set to commence in March. You certainly can ask any questions after I go through the other divisions if we need to circle back around to administrative services. Also, HVAC is currently being replaced at the cooling towers at 9 schools. The custodians are doing updated training for all head custodians. Moving on to the Division of Business Services and Strategic Improvement. The Division of Business Services has remained focused on our goal of continuous improvements, as well as supporting our 5 priorities. You've been given a summary of updates and activities that support these 5 priorities. All departments have submitted their budgets requests. The business services staff is diligently working to compile a preliminary budget to present to the superintendent over the next few weeks. Business services continue working with the external auditor to complete the fiscal year 2020 annual financial audit. We expect to have that completed any day now. Of course, there are other items within the report that you can make comments on as I conclude this report. Also, the Division of Communications, Public Relations, Marketing, and Strategic Improvement. This particular department has been instrumental in hosting the superintendent CEO of schools' first ever State of the Schools address at the Morrow Center on February the 9th. The event premiered the much anticipated Breaking Ground video, and the occasion highlighted the current status of affairs for the district, its progress towards meeting the 5 priorities. The Creative Services Department within that division celebrated all of our counselors within the district on Friday, February the 9th, with a School Days The Remix event. I want to thank the staff members for providing that to our counselors to celebrate Counselors Month. Also, the Division of Construction, SPLOST, and Strategic Improvements. The upcoming procurement deliverables to be presented at a future board meetings that will include the Riverdale Early Learning Center, Lovejoy High School, HVAC upgrades, Morrow High School bleacher repairs, Forest Park Middle, the Convocation Center, athletic field projects, the Adapted Sports Complex Phase 1, Central Office, and the staff for the Central Office were relocated today. They started their first day over in the relocation facility over in the Morrow area, and the back half of the Central Office is being renovated as we speak. Once they finish with that first phase, then the second phase will take place, and they'll complete the renovation for the Central Office, and we're anticipating about a year before the entire Central Office renovations are completed. The Division of Equity and Compliance and Strategic Improvement is increasing its efforts to support our priorities. The Administrative Division recognizes that professional learning and development is necessary, and this department is making certain that they're involved with the training of school leadership. The Division of Human Resources and Strategic Improvement. We're in the midst of our staffing season. The deadline for Clayton County Public Schools employees to submit their application for voluntary transfer process was February the 9th. Transfer applications were submitted by 378 employees. Each applicant will receive a notification on March 1st that reflects their eligibility status for the transfer. Moving on to the Division of Safety and Security and Strategic Improvements, which also falls under Administrative Services. The Clayton County Public Schools rising 6th and 8th grade students will actively engage in transitional activities throughout the school year. The purpose of the transitional activities is to provide students and parents with the information needed to prepare for success in the next school year. Students and parents will participate in individual student planning, academic and career advisement, and universal day activities. Kindergarten registration for the 24-25 school year has begun and will continue through the end of July. Moving on to the Division of Teaching and Learning and Strategic Improvements. We've been given an update in terms of textbooks from Dr. Young, so I'll move on to the Division of Teaching and Learning as it relates to some activities. We had our elementary school winners for the Helen Ruffin Reading Bowl that was held at Kendrick Middle School and 28 elementary schools participated, 10 middle schools and 5 high schools competed in our district level competition. The winners from each grade band was provided. I'll read them. For elementary winners, first place went to Anderson Elementary, second place Marshall Elementary, third place to Arnold Elementary. Middle school winners, first place Elite Scholars, second place Forest Park Middle, third place Babb Middle. High school winners include first place Elite Scholars, second place Mara High School, and third place Mundy's Mill High School. Board members, you've been provided this report, and if you have any questions or comments, myself or the staff stand ready to respond. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members.
Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Christmas,
Madam Chair, don't we have a supplemental report that needs to be added to this?
can you,
We had a supplemental report that was supposed to be added to this. Purchasing.
we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I don't think I see any comments. Did you share it, Mr. Christmas? I'm saying, did you pass it to, thank you, okay. Go ahead. All right, we're on the proposed agenda from the superintendent and chair. You want to call your people up?
Ms. Bivens?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Smith. I have for you this evening the business services reports for the month of January. And the first one will be the general fund budget comparison as of January 31st, 2024. As of January 31st, we collected 61.8% or $392.6 million of our budgeted revenue. Of that, 71.2% was from our local property taxes, $172 million. We collected almost $21.8 million in local revenues at 390% of what we actually budgeted. And then, of course, our QBE revenue that we normally get, a little over 51%, and then 34.5% of our federal revenue. On the expenditure side, we have spent $304,567,000, and that is 48% of our budgeted expenditures. So I'll entertain any questions on the monthly financial reports for the general fund, if you have any.
We're discussing something else. Go right ahead.
Okay.
I don't see any lights.
Okay, the next is a SPOS report. This is revenue that we received in January, but it's actually for December collections. As you can see, we collected we received $2.2 million in January compared to $6 million last year. And then for the quarter, as you can see, the revenues for each month are a little higher than they were last month. So we are anticipating meeting the projections that was included in the referendum when this particular SPOS was passed a few years ago. I entertain any questions on the SPOS report. Okay, next we have the purchasing report. We have report A, which is consumable purchases made with a value of $10,000 or more. We have report B, which is non-consumable purchases made with a value of $10,000 or more, but less than $50,000. And then report C is non-consumable items with a value of $50,000 or more that require board approval as detailed in the executive summary you received. And as Board Member Christmas stated earlier, we did receive a supplemental purchasing report to add for the Department of Exceptional Students, and it's for construction. And it's the construction and the Department of Exceptional Students request to complete a competitive purchase with Eagle Sports Chairs LLC for the immediate purchase of wheelchairs to support the Adapt Ed sports program in their new Adapted Sports Complex facility. The purchase cost for the 24 wheelchairs is $74,400. The purpose of the purchase is to provide replacement wheelchairs to support the sports team for wheelchair handball, basketball, and football. The current wheelchairs are beyond repairs, have regular connection not meeting in the wheels, which causes the wheels to not align and to fall off. The maintenance and upkeep of the chairs is required for the safety of all students with disabilities to participate in the sports program. As the team is in the current season and playoffs, the replacement and new chairs are required for adequate and safe participation. So this again will be funded by SPOST. And that's all I have on the SPOST report. Any questions?
Does everyone understand that what she just discussed, that will be a part of the consent agenda for vote next week? So if we can get someone to just add that in there
Okay.
in e-board for us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bivens. Mr. Joseph.
Hold on. Ms. Boser, you have
I did. Just one for you. First, I just wanted to offer gratitude I'm looking at the purchasing report, and with it was the MBE report for minority businesses, and that's what I have a question about.
Ms. Brewer, are you?
Good evening, Ms. Brewer. Love this report and how we're trying to track our findings. My question is twofold. One, what does it mean to be a minority business according to this document? And I'm asking because I see our list of all these businesses and I see every column, every row in the first column has a yes, as if, yes, they are a minority business. But I wanted to get clarity from you on what does that mean here?
That this is a report that's generated by Munis, and for Munis purposes, if they check any of the boxes, they're considered they MBE, and we're not able to change that system. So you would go by the second one. So if all of them would say yes, because that we have to print it this way, but an MBE means that they're 51% or more owned by a minority. But so it may be misleading, but this is how Munis prints it. So you will look to the left to see which categories they fall in, to the right. So for example, 5-star enterprises.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though it says yes, they would only be a disadvantage in the local small business enterprise and a woman business enterprise. So the categories are listed separately. And perhaps we could change that because Munis does consider anyone that checks any of the boxes, it's just their standard.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because I learned something from what you said. Is what you're saying that a minority business enterprise includes 5 things, according to our district. It includes disabled veterans, disadvantaged businesses, local small, and women. And if you're any one of those things, you're an MBE. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's not correct according to the legal standard, but that's how
Yes, ma'am.
Munis prints it out.
Great. Okay, that was my question. Because I'm looking at many of these businesses that I know are not minority owned. And so I'm just curious about our records if every one of them says yes.
Yes, and that is a flaw. We've tried to work with the Munis to get that changed, but that would be a system upgrade and change for them, and they were not able to do that. And we
Okay.
can only print the report.
And so we don't have any other internal tracking on our own beyond Munis for this data?
Not for this data.
Okay.
This is self-reported by the vendors.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Brewer and Ms. Bivens. Mr. Joseph.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Smith. You received the SPLOST construction update for the month of February. There are 4 payments totaling $9.5 million. There were no change orders executed during this period. The next item is the sales tax exemption on construction materials. The recommendation from the superintendent is that the board approve the attached resolution, which will amend section 48-8-3 of the official code, which will suspend taxes on construction materials. The projected savings of if the legislature takes action would save the district $10.2 to $12.7 million. The next item is the GMP for Group 5 HVAC and roof replacement, which includes E.J. Swint Elementary School, Jonesboro Middle School, Rivers Edge Elementary School. The guaranteed maximum price is $7.7 million, which will allow us to order the HVAC equipment early. We have 30% SLBE participation for that project. And then lastly is the GMP for Lovejoy High School for a cost of $126,987,000. There's 28.95 SLBE participation. Are there any questions?
Ms. Baker?
Okay, going back to the HVAC system, you said that would allow us to buy them early. When does the warranty start? Once we buy them or once we put them in? Because many years ago, Grady bought a whole bunch of stuff and the warranties were out before they ever started construction.
Yeah, we've worked with maintenance to change our contract documents where the warranty period begins at substantial completion. So the idea was to order now in preparation for the summer renovations, but our contract reads for the warranty period will begin once the entire project achieves substantial completion.
At the Lovejoy High School? Before we vote on this, I asked the question today about spending $141 million for a modernization. We spent, I believe it was 95, I'm gonna just round it up and say 90 million for a brand new Morrow High School. We spent, well, what's the amount of money we're supposed to be spending for a brand new North Clayton High School?
We are now roughly around 150 million.
150? So my question, I found that I did receive an answer because I did send it in late. I had an issue with e-board. Before we vote on $141 million, and I'm trying to, would like to have a timeline, because I know that the way that we were supposed to build things, that's there are 2 projects that are supposed to be prior to that. Can we see, according to your answer, is that there is a new wing and we're changing the FTE count? Can we see that part that we're getting? Because I don't want us to make a mistake like we did before when we renovated Forest Park High School and spent $26 million when we should have just built a brand new school.
Yes, ma'am. Tomorrow we will provide you the floor plans of the Lovejoy High School modernization, which will show you the additional wing as well as the new competition gym.
Right, but for the additional wing, that's what I really want to see what we're getting. Because I was looking at some of the prices for the so-called, to me, you say modernization, it's a renovation. If the rooms aren't gonna be any bigger, look like you're just gonna go in and do something to what's already old or whatever. I just don't see why we don't get a new facility. And with the modernization, does this also include a gym, another gymnasium for them?
Yes, ma'am. The GMP includes a new competition gym as well as athletic improvements at the high school and stadium.
Okay, so is it possible since the parents have come and they've complained about not having the other gym, are they going to have to wait until the whole thing is done to get that gym, or is it possible for us to have a part of the building where the gym is going to be, so they can already we can just get started on that and have that in place for them?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the benefits of this construction delivery. With approval of the GMP, we could begin construction immediately. We will phase the project like all renovation modernizations, and phase 1 includes the gymnasium and the addition.
All right, because we need some dates, because we're doing a lot of projects that are supposed to be pushed all the way down, but we have this list of projects where the voters voted on some other buildings, and those buildings haven't even started yet. Ms. Bowles and then Ms. Baker.
Good evening, Mr. Joseph. 3 quick questions. At the bottom of the Lovejoy High report, there's 2 mock-ups. What are we going with one of these 2, or are these 2 different angles?
Different angles. So one angle shows you the classroom addition, and then the other angle shows you the competition gym.
Awesome, thank you. My second question is, we're changing the FTE at Lovejoy from what to what?
Capacity from 1,900 to 2,800. I believe the current FTE is around 2,030.
Okay, and then that leads me to my final question. I assume, but I don't want to make any assumptions, but I assume that FTE switch was anchored in data of some sort. But in addition to whatever data you've used to figure out the growth of the school, have we talked to staff and allowed their voices as a part of this modernization? And I'm
Right.
only asking for the record. I know our audiences are listening here and away, and I'd love for you to just state for the community what's been done to incorporate voices beyond your staff.
Yes, ma'am. We've had several community meetings. We met with students. We met with teachers, principals. As always, we meet with operations, transportation, maintenance, food and nutrition. We meet with all stakeholders. So it's not just one department coming up with a rendering or a floor plan. We seek input from all, and what comes out is the final product.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Baker.
My light was on from my previous question. I've turned it off.
Okay. Mr. Christmas.
Mr. Joseph, at Lovejoy, I've been asking, when we build buildings, are we building buildings with the capacity to go up, like this future Lovejoy, because they're growing so fast? Will we be able to go up in this particular building?
Yes, sir. There's actually quite a bit of land at Lovejoy High School. Currently, Lovejoy High School is a 1-floor facility. The addition is a 2-floor addition, so we are going up, and there's always room for growth.
Right, so if we need to go up 3 floors, will we be able to go up even when it's built?
We could, but now that we're at 2,800 FTE, I don't know if we want to go any larger for that particular high school.
The area is growing really fast. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to we're talking about the high school, but then I want to touch on the middle school, because you're increasing the FTE at the high school, but it seems to me that nobody's thinking about the middle school. Eddie White, we've taken away 1 middle school from that area. Eddie White has been over capacity since it opened. So like I said, we keep adding all of these projects, and I really think we need to go back and look at some of the projects that we're discussing, because in some of those schools, we have a decline in the population, whereas on the southern part of the county, we have an increase in building. And if we're going to think about 2,800 for the high school, what are we thinking about as far as the middle school is concerned?
Mr. Joseph, if I can jump in. Keep in mind, Mr. Christmas and Ms. Corey, all board members for that matter, we purchased 100 acres, nearly 100 acres down in the Panhandle area for future growth, to include growth for middle schools. We're going to be confronted in probably a year or two with a decision to either build something new down there that speaks to an elementary, middle, and high school, or do some significant redistricting. To speak to Mrs. Gorey's concern about in some pockets, the growth is slow or none at all, and some areas is high, particularly in the Panhandle area. So we're looking at the numbers as recently as today. We went through all three levels to determine that it's going to be a need at some point in the very near future. Now, we do have a good proactive measure in place for the growth in the Panhandle area called 100 acres. So we're in pretty good shape, but we're going to be confronted with redistricting at some point in the near future.
Well, I can agree with that to one extent, but you're talking about there is nowhere to redistrict to for the middle school because you only have one middle school. So I still think that we're overlooking the middle school, and we need to look at, if you're going to build, then you need to look at that, and then you might need to look in other areas, because I could say on my end of the county, there are some schools that could be combined, and and we not do some of the things that we have on the list to do to those schools. So I want us to be mindful of that, and to please get us that information in regards to the school. Are there any other questions regarding construction and SPOS?
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Ms. Albritton?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, other members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Smith, colleagues, and community members. The Personnel Changes Report summarizes all personnel actions for the period of January 19th through February 8th, 2024. All human resources updates were submitted to the Board of Education for your review. I am happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Alberton, could you give us, have we sent out, I know it's in here, but just for the public to hear, have we sent out contracts yet? Can you
Yes.
give us just give us a little report on how we're looking?
Absolutely. So on last Friday, February 23rd, our first round contract distribution was conducted. Those contracts were issued to teachers, others paid on the teacher salary schedule, as well as central office positions that do not require board approval. Based on tonight's vote, all other contracts will be issued tomorrow.
Okay.
And after those contracts are issued tomorrow, we'll provide an update on the status regarding the number of contracts issued and the number of holds.
All right. And we have our transfer. We've already, I think Dr. Smith alluded to that in his report, to those that have requested transfers. So that's been taken care of. And I'm not sure, were you at the induction event for the special ed teachers that was last Monday?
No, I wasn't able to.
Okay. I wanted to commend the RISA. We had an induction of, gonna give that hand clap back there for, we had a cohort of teachers that are going to be, as I told them, they made it because they went through the process to become special ed teachers. We're really lacking in that area. And as I was saying to them, it's truly a calling. Becoming an educator is truly a calling, and especially our special needs employees, because there's such a great amount of work with all the meetings, all the IEPs, and all those types of things. And we're improving in that area. I'm real glad about that. And we have our board member down here on the other end that's very supportive of our athletes. And so that was really a good thing. I was glad to see those many people, because as I was telling them my story of when I first came in, and you get in these teacher education programs, and then they just put you out there, and it's not so easy when you're in there. So they're greatly appreciated.
And then, Madam Chair, to extend on that thought, this Thursday, we will be hosting our special education job fair from 5 until 7.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Concludes our board reports.
All right. The next item on the agenda is Policy Series D. This is a second read. We'll be voting on Monday. Ms. Baker.
Yes, ma'am. I was wanting to look at DJEAA. It's to move the amount from 50,000 to 100,000 on the purchasing report. I know costs are going up. I am very conservative, so I would like to see that number more like 75,000, and then see how that works to see if we need to move it up to 100,000. I just didn't know if anybody wanted to give any reasoning for that other than me being conservative.
Did everyone hear what she said? Currently, the limit is at 50,000 for a vote from the board, and she said 75,000. And I'm almost kind of inclined to go along with the 75,000, but what about the rest of the board? Because Mr. Christmas and I actually attended a school board conference this week in Dallas, Texas, and that was one of the concerns of some of the other board members with spending when it went up to that amount. And so anyway, I'm trying to see how we're looking. Ms. Hill.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would just respect the request for 75, but I am inclined to still keep it at 50, because when there is an emergency need, my understanding is that purchase is made and then brought back to the board. And so I would still like it to remain as is.
Okay. Mr. Christmas.
Madam Chair, I'd like it to stay at 50 for the simple fact that there be checks and balances. I am a part of an institution where there was no checks and balances and people lives were destroyed. So I want to continue to keep it at 50.
Okay. Ms. Cooper.
I agree with my colleagues to keep it at the 50K. It gives us, a little bit more insight of what's going on.
Okay. Well, it looks like the majority is not in favor of the 100,000. I was willing to go up to 75, but it looks like the majority is looking at keeping it as is. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay, so we're gonna keep it as is. Anything else in D? All right, moving right along to E. We have anything? All right, then I'm going to F. Ms. Hill?
Madam Chair, we're not voting on this tonight, are we?
No, we're
No, okay.
voting on
Because
Monday.
I would like us to, I know this is the second read, but I'd like to add some language to F, and I'll be happy to provide that in writing.
All right, please send it to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, the next item are board protocols. The board protocols are added in e-board. Is there any discussion, Ms. Baker?
Just for clarification, this board protocols and vision project are part of the criteria for the
For the exemplary board,
That's what I'm
yes.
sorry, I was looking for that exemplary board. So that's why we're going over it again.
Well, we passed the board protocols and it needs to be a part of the agenda every year. So I put it on here so that when it's time for us to turn in all of our information for exemplary board, if we're still seeking it, that it will be in the record.
I'm just saying there's not really any changes to it. It's just. It's just to check off the boxes.
Well, that and changes, if changes need to be made, that's why I put them in there so you all could look at them, and if there are changes, those were the agreed protocols. But you can peruse them and let me know if there are any changes. We can discuss it, but we need to vote on it. The next item on the agenda is the criteria for exemplary board. And there's nothing we can do with that except for you all to look at it and make sure that we are in compliance if we're seeking exemplary board. We need to have one more retreat for the whole board hours, that we need 9 of them. That is slated for, I believe, March the 23rd. If there are some members who have missed a retreat, they are recorded, and you need to look at it and let Ms. Blackwood know that you've looked at it so you can receive credit. We do have, you can always get you need 12 hours. And we're pretty much, most of us are already have taken, and we're probably already met the criteria. But you can also meet the requirement through GSBA. There are some individual courses that you can take. We have our summer conference coming up in June. And Ms. Blackwood has requested some information for you for registration if you plan on getting registered so that we can be in compliance this year. The next item is the Vision Project, and that is also adopted by GSBA. And basically our agendas, and we should be, when we're having our board meetings or anything that's dealing with students, we are adhering to some of the goals of the Vision Project. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we're going down to the business agenda for action. We need to vote on these tonight. Now, I had stepped away, Dr. Young, so I don't know if you gave, I see we have the ESOL textbook adoption. Did you discuss this already? Okay. So at this time, then we need to vote on these items. Now, this is actually, we could have put them in a consent agenda. We didn't, but I can make it consent if you would like. Or do we need to vote on these all separately?
Madam Chair, is it possible just to vote for all the textbooks at one time?
I'm saying I can make it a consent item.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, if there's no objection, we are going to treat this as a consent agenda. So we will be voting for the ESOL textbook adoption. That's A. We'll be voting on B, the ELA intervention elementary textbook adoption. We'll be voting on C, the ELA intervention secondary textbook adoption. D, the science textbooks adoption, and E, world language textbook adoption. So can I have a motion for all of those at one time? Mr. Christmas.
So moved, Madam Chair.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Christmas. Ms. Baker.
Second.
It's been seconded by Ms. Baker. Ms. Cooper, were you? All right, please vote. All right, we have 8 in favor. I think Dr. Haney had to step away, so I'll let her come back, but I think she wants to say yes, so it's unanimous vote. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the proposed meeting for next week. Hold on just a moment, because I may have to change one thing on here. Okay, I'm going to add to the, if you look at the agenda, Dr. Haney, did you want to be a yes vote for all of the textbook okay, so make that unanimous. Okay, so we're on the agenda for action. Now, next week we need to vote under the business agenda for policy series D, E, and F. But I would like to add to that the board protocols and the vision project. Well, actually, I'm just going to put all 3 of these. Everything that's under board matters we need to vote on. Does everybody understand? Okay, so I need a motion to accept the agenda for our next meeting, adding all items under board matters. Ms. Baker.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept this agenda as amended.
Okay. Ms. Cooper. All right, it's been moved and properly second that we accept the agenda as amended. Please vote. All right, it is unanimous, and it's 7:26, and we've covered everything. Thank you all. We're adjourned.